Good morning, everybody. How are you? So I'm going to echo LRCA. And so LRCA, the Lamont Riggs Civic Association, right? And you guys did make this happen, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Good morning, everybody. My name is Akash Thakkar. I'm the Chief Acquisitions Officer at EYA and proud to be able to speak about this project on behalf of EYA. I am a son of Ward 4. It's always a great day when I get to share anything with the first daughter of Ward 4, Ms. Muriel Bowser. So this project is special to me, special to EYA, and I know it's special to the mayor and all of you here as well. So why are we here today? For a number of reasons. To celebrate an important milestone for this project. Some of our first homeowners are moving in after years and hard work. The ground that we stand on now today used to be a private parcel and some extra land that the city controlled. And we worked together so closely with this community to build what you see before you today, new townhomes, 90 of them. In the next phase, 100 new senior units, retail uses, open spaces, and maybe most importantly, part of a renewed center of this community. It's a type of project EYA loves to work on. We're able to provide new attainably priced housing. We're able to collaborate with the community in really important ways. We're able to meet objectives of the city, and projects like this, in our view, are not only good for the communities in which they're in, but they provide tax base, they provide jobs, and they allow us to make the many other investments that the mayor and her team so boldly make investments in. So some thank yous, and I apologize if I leave anyone out because it does take a village, a big one, to move a project like this forward. So I'm going to start with the community because this project really was born of the community. And I say that because there are many projects happening around this city. None of them have moved as quickly as this one, or maybe some of them has, but not ones I've been involved in. And it is because of the ANC, it is because of the Parks Main Street, and it is because of the LRCA. And I'm just going to mention some names that I have worked with in the LRCA. So again, apologies if I don't mention everyone, but Barbara Rogers, Uchenna Evans, Gwen Cofield, Latoya Huff, and Tisha Cockrell. And so I think you guys will all notice, and I was thinking through this last night, my daughter likes to say, and I like to agree with her, their future is female, but everyone in that group, and I know there's lots of fellas out there that worked on this too, but you guys did really lead the way in moving this project forward, so thank you so very much. Very quickly, our partners on this project, Paramount Development in Ben Soto, I know he's here somewhere, JBGS, who is a great developer in our city, and our partner on this project, Eagle Bank, the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, the many attorneys, architects, engineers, and others who helped put this all together. My colleagues at EYA, who've worked so very hard, particularly in trying circumstances over the past 2 years, the pandemic and supply chain, and needing and wanting to get our homeowners into their homes, have worked so hard and diligently to make this happen. And then last but not least, our team at the Deputy Mayor's Office. Patrick is here somewhere, Esther, Sarosh, the Deputy Mayor, and of course our current and future Mayor, Ms. Bowser. I'd also be remiss if I did not thank, from all of us, former council member Todd, current council member Janice Lewis-George, council member Anita Bonds, and my good friend, council member McDuffie, standing right over here as well. So thank you guys for all your support. So in closing, I simply want to say this. It takes a village to build a project like this. It takes a village to run a village or a city, in our case, like Washington, D.C. And I have to say that every village or big city in this case needs strong leadership, and its success will be based on that strong leadership. A leader who has vision, a leader who marshals resources to get things done, a leader who builds community, and maybe most important to me, and I know we're going to be talking more about this today, a leader who works hard to bridge the gap where there are inequities, but at the same time working with the business community so we have the dollars and the jobs to invest in those areas where we need to bridge the gap. And so in my view, in our view, we have a mayor who has all of those characteristics. And as I said, I'm so happy to be sharing this stage with the current and future mayor. Before we get to her remarks, I want to introduce one of my colleagues, Jamal Smith. Come on up, Jamal. So Jamal Smith is our sales manager for this project at EYA, and he's done yeoman's work with all of our folks to go through this process, which for first-time and other home buyers is an extraordinarily important one. So Jamal, thank you for what you do, and look forward to hearing more about some of your work.
Thank you, Akash. Again, my name is Jamal Smith. I am one of the sales managers here at EYA, and it is an extreme pleasure to be able to be here today. This is a culmination of a lot of people's efforts, so it's great to see everybody. One of my main job is being responsible for the community and meeting with prospective homeowners, helping them identify the right home site. We go through the options and being able to personalize their home to their specifications. So it's always a rewarding process when I'm able to just, work with such a wide cross section of purchasers, but in particular first-time buyers, because getting them from being in a renting position to home ownership is a monumental feat in and of itself. So very happy to be here, and I guess in being able to work with homeowners, I was able to meet with Jimmy and Alexis. I'm sorry, Jimmy and Neonda Alexis. They're newlyweds, and they were able to purchase their first home here at Riggs Park Place, and have recently just celebrated their settlement last month. So I would like to introduce them, and they can kind of share with you their experience.
Thank you, Jamal. And if you had anything to do with the weather here today, thank you for that as well. I'm from Florida. I like it hot. So, but my wife and I, we are humbly, here today to, talk a little bit about, the journey to home ownership. But before we get into, some of the challenges, I want to introduce my wife to talk through her love for DC.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Neonda Alexis, and as my husband just mentioned, so I am a DC metropolitan area native. I was born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, and so I really spent a lot of time in DC proper growing up, whether it was going to the children's museums, other Smithsonian's, monuments, dinners. We also had a lot of family in the city. There's just a lot of nostalgia here for me. And another thing that I loved about growing up in this area is the amount of Black excellence. I grew up just seeing, doctors, lawyers, politicians, people that looked like me in roles that I really aspired to be. So I thought that was really important to stay in an area like this, which also influenced why I went to Howard University. And so, And so I was able to live in the city for 4 years, and after I graduated, that was definitely a huge goal of mine to come back into the city, but more specifically come back as a homeowner. So we're just so excited to be here because even in my adult life, if I'm hanging out, I'm usually hanging out in the city. So whether it's, brunch, dinner, we love comedy shows. We see stand-up comedy probably every week. We love live music, jazz. We love art galleries, just really the whole gamut of everything you could ever want is right here in the city. So we're very happy to be here.
Yep. And, I'm not from the city, but, over a decade ago, I came here to do a research project. Took a look at the education reform that was happening here in the city. Spent a lot of time in Southeast, met with teachers, parents, students, community organizers, and realized it was a place that wasn't too dissimilar from where I grew up. And so just overall, just fell in love, with DC, fell in love with the energy. Fast forward, I've been here for 8 years, met my wife. We got 2 dogs, and You know, so it's just, you know, a place that I realized that we're setting roots. House is right there, and we're staying for a while. All right. So, you know, being a young couple, you know, the journey to home ownership, you know, has been something that's difficult. Me personally, I am a first generation in this country from, you know, my parents are from Haiti, and, you know, so that process from getting from childhood to here is a great one. And, you know, beyond that, you know, just the process of going through, you know, the homeowner or acquiring the home is tough as well. You know, be it the pandemic, you know, supply chain issues that created delays. And it's not just a, you know, issue that just Niana and I face. It's something that, you know, just, you know, all around folks faced. And we realized during that time, you know, we locked in our rates, you know, 2 years ago. So, you know, things, you know, from an interest standpoint, you know, worked out. But, you know, we realized a lot of folks have been priced out of the market. And, you know, just, you know, we feel very humble and blessed that we have this opportunity here. You know, one thing that we do look forward to is, you know, with this new home is, you know, building, you know, generational wealth, you know, starting a family, and, you know, overall just having a place to, you know, pass down to our kids. So, thank you.
And without further ado, I know this project was incredibly close to your heart, Mayor Bowser, so I want to go ahead and introduce Mayor Muriel Bowser. Thank you.
Let's give our new homeowners a big round of applause. Nyanda, the Alexis family. I'm Muriel Bowser, your mayor. Welcome to Riggs Park. I was elected to serve as the ANC commissioner for this neighborhood in 2004. And ever since then, a tenacious group of neighbors, before then, a tenacious group of neighbors have worked to make this one of Washington, D.C.'s premier neighborhoods. Wouldn't you agree? And as I was thinking about that time, it is true, Akash, that there have been a band of women who have been focused on everything from transforming the Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center, almost single-handedly willed by Sherlita Settles. So I want to give Sherlita a big round of applause. I want to give all the women and boys and girls of the Lamont Riggs Steelers who played on that ball field a big round of applause, because they played in some tough conditions. And then Mayor Fenty and the whole team made sure that they had a premier ball field. And so I want to thank them for that. But I also want to recognize a woman who at the time worked for Mayor Fenty, and I was a new ANC commissioner, and we would walk around this place and say we have to do more. People have heard me tell this story before. There was a tiger market over there. Who remembers that? I know you remember that, Rev. You really remember it. Now I'm remembering something else. The Rev would protest it and call attention to it. The problem with that tiger market, it suggests that it was a food seller, right? But it mostly sold alcohol and lottery tickets. And some other people remember when there was a Highs over there, right? And a teacher supply store. But what had happened, as they say, is that it became dangerous to walk from Fort Totten Metro to go to any of those locations. And we knew that we had to do better for our community. We needed quality retail, we needed safety, and we needed affordable housing. But more than anything, we needed the neighborhood to be at the table and to make sure that any development that came to Riggs Park was development that the neighborhood wanted. How did we do, LRCA? How did we do? I think we did it. So Rodney Foxworth, Sharon Hines, Gwen Cofield were all in leadership of the LRCA when we started the Lamont Riggs Development Task Force. And over the course of this now 18 years, This Lamont Riggs Task Force has been responsible for advocating for the Hampshires. Some of you know, another townhome community right here in Ward 4. Advocating for retail that was anchored by the Walmart with housing, and now there's coffee, there's hamburger place, there's places for people to go to take care of their basic neighborhood needs. When Riggs Park residents were going to Maryland to get those things done. And Sharon would be very unhappy if I failed to mention the Chick-fil-A. And they have also been responsible for what you see, Councilmember McDuffie. I haven't forgotten the Ward 4 side of Riggs in what is happening here with the arts development in Riggs Park, which has been also a place where we can welcome affordable housing and more retail. This committee of tenacious men and women was also responsible for making sure that we had the new Lamont Riggs Library, which is coming out of the ground and soon to open right here in Lamont Riggs as well. I was proud as a ANC commissioner, a council member, and now your mayor, to have been involved in every single step of the way, from the planning to the funding to the zoning to I don't know what. I've been engaged in it. The last thing I'll mention is where we're standing. Some will remember, what was it? It was a road. It was a speed ramp is what we like to call it, and it was one on the other side too. It is one of the first examples of neighbors saying, highways, we stop them, and we don't want any remnants of highways that dissected our cities remaining in Riggs Park. So we closed those roads. We closed those speed ramps that came from South Dakota and dropped people on Riggs Road, and from Riggs onto South Dakota on the Food and Friends side, which gives us a great example how we can reclaim the roads to build affordable housing. How did we do, DC? And so, full circle, today we heard from a couple who's getting their fair shot at home ownership right in the community that so many people have worked on to support, and they're going to welcome new neighbors as well. But what we have to address, and we will address, is the anxiety that so many people feel, like you explained, about the process. We have to address long-standing discriminatory practices that kept Black people in our city, in the nation's capital, from having access to every neighborhood and every tool that would have allowed them to buy homes generations ago and pass that wealth on to their own children. So we know that Black Washingtonians are starting a few steps behind their neighbors and having the generational wealth that they got passed on to them to invest in homes in Washington, D.C. So that's why this year I proposed a legacy initiative, $40 million worth of programs and services that would focus on how to make up for those past wrongs. And today we are celebrating the first $10 million of that investment. I want to thank and acknowledge Councilmember Anita Bonds. Councilmember Bonds is here in the front, and Councilmember Bonds is the at-large council member for housing. And she has had the difficult job that she was up for of protecting the $1 billion of affordable housing dollars that I have proposed over my tenure as mayor to the council. And she has protected every single penny of it. And we are investing and have invested those dollars where we will create 36,000 new units of housing in the district. And this is an example of the type of housing that we could create. We were together recently as well, celebrating senior housing that has been created in the district. And I'm proud to say there are examples like this in every single ward of the District of Columbia. Now, we have done a strike force related to housing previously. Here's the thing about the strike force. It's short-lived. That means that I give all the participants an expectation of how long they have to do their work. In this case, we hope the strike force can do its work this summer so that we can have actionable recommendations so that we can start the work of the Black Homeowners Fund by the time these budget dollars are available on October 1st. Are you with me, strike force? I am also pleased that to name the leaders of this strike force and the members of the strike force today. I want to start by naming the staff co-chair. She is the interim director for the DC Office of Planning, and she also very much knows Ward 4 because she was our Ward 4 planner. So please stand up and welcome Anita Cozart, co-chair of the Black Homeowner Strike Force. I also want to name her co-chair and someone who knows a lot about making sure people can get in homes. And he knows a lot about Ward 4 and making sure the government delivers, right, Rev? Reverend Graylin Hagler, who is the senior minister of the Plymouth Congregational Church, United Church of Christ. And I will also like to read several members of the task force as well, and I expect the co-chairs to appoint committees and invite others to serve on committees as members. So we'll list the appointees. Some of them have joined us today, and if you're here, please join me at the podium. So Sheila Alexander Reed, who is the Senior Vice President of Business Development at BuyASync. S. Catherine Allen, who is the President of Answer Title. Sasha Angus, President and CEO of MANA. Diedrich Asante Muhammad, Chief of Membership, Policy and Equity at the National Community Reinvestment Coalition. Harrison Beecher, President of the Greater Capital Area of Realtors. Ellis Carr, President of Capital Impact Partners. Ayanna Douglas, Realtor at Compass. Ann Ford, Community Member in Neighborhood Legal Services. Babatunde Alayede, President and CEO of Marshall Heights Community Development. Joanne Savage, attorney at the Legal Counsel of the Elderly. Suzanne Slater, co-president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Harvey Yancey, principal at H2 Design Build. And the D.C. government members are Anita Bonds, chairperson of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration, Reverend Thomas Bowen of the Mayor's Office of African American and Religious Affairs, Brenda Donald, the Executive Director of the District Columbia Housing Authority, Chris Donald, the Executive Director of the District of Columbia Housing Finance Agency, Amber Hewitt, the Director of the Office on Racial Equity, Drew Hubbard, Interim Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development, and Karima Woods, the Commissioner of the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your Black Homeowners Strike Force, chaired by Anita Cozart and Reverend Graylin Hagler. And I know that they are itching to get to work, to devise the programs that will help us meet our goals. And I should say something about goals. You're going to set them. So what I'm asking you to do in the course of designing the programs and services is to look ahead. We're in 2022. We have some pretty specific housing goals that will get us to 2025. So for 2030, we're asking this committee to design the programs and establish how we will increase Black home ownership in Washington, D.C. by 2030. Are you with me? All right. That's the charge. So now let me turn it over to Reverend Graylin Scott Hagler and Anita.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A hand for Muriel Bowser, our mayor. So I am very humbled to have been given this charge and really excited to work with my co-chair and this august body here who is going to come up with the goals and the strategies. We understand how critical this issue is for the reasons our homeowners shared with us. And we also understand, as the mayor said, that this is a generational issue and that there are patterns of lack of opportunity and barriers that were erected because of sets of discrimination and racism that exist in the housing and real estate community and policy. And so we understand that this is a big charge, and we understand that while there are many answers that we have within this group, we have many answers amongst those who are here today, and we're looking forward to engaging you all, and we're looking forward to engaging your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues. And so you'll be hearing from us because we need all the help. We need everyone. We need every property owner. We need every would-be property owner. We need anyone who's been doing this work and is passionate about it to help us as we come up with a goal and, even more importantly, the strategies that matter. So thank you so much for being here. Know that we'll be calling on you soon, and wish us the best as we start with this very important task. And now my co-chair, Reverend Hagler.
I want to thank Mayor Bowser for, one, daring to attack something like this because it's extremely important. I want to thank all of you who have agreed to be a part of that. And of course, when the mayor asked for me to chair this, I had no choice but to say yes. And partly because this issue is so important. When you look at the discriminatory practices that have been carried out, discriminatory practices such as black folks could not get VA loans, which set them automatically backwards, where white GIs coming home could get 0 down and lower interest rates and basically buy up the city and buy up the suburbs. Those have been the discriminatory practices that have been in place. And when you don't have the building blocks in order to be able to step up and purchase a home, you are basically eliminated from the economic place of equality. Now, I need to say congratulations to the homeowners. But I want to point out also, because this is a beautiful development down the street from where I live. I'm on Kennedy Street. But one of the things that hit me, you got 90% sold at a starting price of $600,000. $600,000, let's do the numbers, equates to roughly about $5,000 a month in PITI. That's unaffordable, particularly when you look at a black community whose median household income is a little over $49,000 in comparison to the median house income of a white community that is $147,000. In other words, you can't step up to the plate. What we need to do is, we're serious about this. We got to look at it with new eyes, Mayor. We got to dare to break down the bureaucracy that keeps people from playing on a level playing field. Such as HPAP money, not a lot of it get out in the street. We need to be clear about making that effective and efficient, that allows families to remain in the district, because we're losing the black community out of Washington, D.C. And we should be clear that that is a crisis that we need to reverse and make sure our communities are settled and whole, and our families are whole. The mayor lifted up a few things about my history right there where there's Food and Friends. There was a nightclub, you remember that? Called Des Cachets. They were selling drugs out of it. And there were shootings every Friday and Saturday night. And we had to close that down. And we did close that down. Because one thing that is important, and the mayor knows this, is when you live in a neighborhood, you have a different perspective. Right? If bullets are flying, it's flying past your head. It's not a hypothetical equation. It's a real deal. And so we really worked to clean up the neighborhood. And when the mayor got elected as ANC in 2004, she bought her home in 2005, I believe, through a program that I started along with our CEO, Bruce Marks, 36 years ago in Boston, called the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. The mayor was a NACA homeowner, I'm a NACA homeowner. And again, we began to push forward a kind of model, a new economic model that allows families to be able to settle in their communities and remain in their communities, remain to get rid of the predators trying to take our homes and take our community. We need to build a level playing field where there is equal opportunity. God bless you, Mayor, and thank you for such an initiative.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And so finally, I wanted to invite Councilmember McDuffie and acknowledge his work on the council, especially focused on racial equity. He is responsible for drafting a lot of legislation that's requiring the council and the administration to have a systematic review of policies and budgets according to a racial equity lens. And I have been privileged to hire our first chief equity officer for racial equity, and I acknowledged her earlier. Where is she? Amber Hewitt, who is right here. Councilmember McDuffie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning, everyone. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I did not factor in the fact that I would have to follow Reverend Hagler. So let me acknowledge that first. Great remarks, Reverend Hagler. My name is Kenya McDuffie. I'm council member for Ward 5, but I'm also council of the Chair's Committee on Business and Economic Development. That's important because I've had the opportunity over the last several years to work with Mayor Bowser, Deputy Mayor John Falchicchio, and the team at Denpit and others to do a number of things that focus the city more on racial equity, social justice, and economic inclusion. When Reverend Hagler mentioned the cost of buying a home in this beautiful community to come, he mentioned how it might be, for some people cost prohibitive, right? The reality is for some people it won't be. And I think for the folks who can afford to put down lots of money on a house, it is a remnant. Frankly, it's a scar, indelible mark from the long history of slavery, racism, and Jim Crow segregation that exists in our country. And the reality is, unless we are doing programs specifically like the one that the mayor announced today, we're not going to be able to reverse the legacy of discrimination, racism, and slavery that you just talked about, Reverend Hagler. When I set about a pathway to start to do more around racial equity, social justice, and economic inclusion, there are a lot of folks who were advising me politically and said, don't do it, don't step into this, all right? This is going to be tough work, and you're going to be accused of all types of things. And what I told them was, this is precisely why I ran for office originally, to see people be able to accomplish their dreams. So people like Native Ward 5, let's be clear, Native of Ward 5, who will become our mayor, but also to buy her first home not far from where she grew up, right? And where she represented the community as an ANC. My brother, Damien McDuffie, is an ANC right across the border in 5A01. He and my sister-in-law, they bought their first home not far from here, almost 20 years ago. My wife and I brought my childhood home on North Capitol Street. Many of you all have heard this before, but that home was purchased originally by my grandparents in 1952. It's only 4 years after the Supreme Court decided in a similar case, Shelley v. Kramer, that the federal government can no longer enforce racially restrictive covenants. My home had a racially restrictive covenant on it. The issues that we face today are not just in home ownership. They're in business ownership. They're in whether you're trying to start a tech company or you're trying to buy the building where your hair salon is. our city, through the work that I've been championing at the council with Anita Bonds and my colleagues at the council, the work that I've been doing hand in hand with Mayor Bowser, is changing the odds for people in this city. And I want everybody to recognize the intentional nature of this work. This is not just the DC Homeownership Fund. Is it, Mayor? Nope. This is the Black Homeownership Fund. Because the people... We will acknowledge that more than 20,000 people have been displaced over this city over the last several decades. It's not because of anybody that's on this council today, frankly, and the legacy of discrimination that has caused the district to continue to be one of the most racially segregated housing markets in the country wasn't started or caused by anybody on this council or any mayor. But unless and until we continue to be intentional about our policies, we won't begin to change it. So I want to really lift up what the mayor is doing with this Black Homeownership Fund and recognize how much more we need to do to close the racial wealth gap in the nation's capital. And so, again, let's give Mayor Bowser and her team a round of applause for having the bold and courage to do this. This is absolutely important. We got to keep doing more things like this. Thank you, Mayor Bowser.
Thank you, Councilmember. Let's give Kenya McDuffie a big round of applause. It's been a tremendous partner to me and when we served together and till this day. So with that, we're going to take a few questions. Then we're going to cut a ribbon from our press. And we may have a few for minutes for community as well. Yes.
That $600,000 seems like how much bureaucracy and red tape is there that home prices are soaring a lot faster than salaries are, than what people are making, even though people are making more? Is there enough bureaucracy and red tape to really make a dent in that?
Well, I don't think bureaucracy or red tape have anything to do with the pressure on housing prices. We know that a lot of people want to live here, want to start their businesses here, which increases demand on housing, and we have the stock that we have. So our focus to help drive costs down, whether it's rents or home prices, is to make sure we have enough capacity, enough new housing, enough preserved housing. So when people are looking for housing, everybody is not trying to get one house, which we know will drive the prices up. So this is an example of what was an underutilized parcel that is now housing. And I also think it's important to say, and this is my story, and Reverend Hagelin knows it. He alluded to it. When I was looking to buy a house in 2000, I wouldn't have been able to buy a $600,000 house either. But because I got into NACA, a first-time home buyers program, because I qualified for down payment assistance and could get a mortgage that was below market rate, because I could buy in a great neighborhood like Riggs Park for $125,000 and invest in my home, invest in my community, and grow my wealth, so now my house is probably worth $600,000, I could, some years later, afford a $600,000 home. More than a $600,000 home. But I had to start somewhere. And so that is what our charge is in our communities, to make more communities like this great Riggs Park one, where people feel very confident that they have retail, good schools, good recreation, great transportation, and it's safe. And they also see that the government is investing in it and making sure it has safe roads and quality and safe housing. So those are the things that we're going to do, so that there are options in all 8 wards of the city at all price points. And so where you may be in one place in your life where you were single with a relatively low income and you bought a house for $125, and then you meet this great couple here that found each other. Maybe they couldn't afford it separately, but they can afford it together. So we have to have a point in places all across our city for people at various stages in their life can invest in the type of housing that they want.
And then, I guess off topic as well, this morning Charles Allen published a letter signed by a majority of the council saying that the debate over the new Commander Stadium at RFK is over with now, that it's not going to happen, that there's, I guess, a majority do
Well,
not
how
support it?
arrogant can you be to suggest that a debate is over when I'm still talking? Next question.
Mayor Bowser, what are some of the specific ways that you'll measure?
I can't see who's speaking. Who's speaking? Okay.
I'm Paige with Axios DC. I wanted to know what are some of the specific ways you'll measure the success of the task force. Is there a number of black homeowners you like to see or some other measure?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm going to measure their success because they're going to meet throughout the summer. And I'm hoping what they'll tell me is that they can get to some very thoughtful recommendations by the end of the summer so that we can launch a program on October the 1st. But they're going to get into that work and let me know. And I hope also that they will have enough research and information to set those goals. Yes.
Hi, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor. One question on topic, the other off topic. Starting with the on topic, still being the new kid on the block, getting used to the area and everything. There was something that you mentioned, if you would, that this is the first $10 million of $40 million set aside.
Yes.
For it. Is that correct?
No, this $10 million is part of a package of other legacy initiative items. I'm glad you mentioned it. The council member referred to another one, which is the Commercial Acquisition Fund, which is really focused in wards 5, 7, and 8 on helping legacy business owners go from renters to owners. So converting their rent payments for their businesses to equity for their business and themselves. We're also keenly focused on our senior property owners, and I want to thank Councilmember Bonds again for her attention to this. In this budget that the council just approved, we reduced senior property taxes in this way. There has been a cap, a year-to-year cap on how much your property taxes can go up, and that cap, I see some people like, what are you saying? From 5%. For non-seniors, the residential property cap is 10%. For seniors, it's 5%. Beginning October the 1st, the cap that a senior property tax could go up is capped at 2%, which reduces from year to year. That's a good one. That's good. We know that everybody is looking for ways to keep additional money in their pockets. And this will be one way. We have been investing for several years in a program called Safe at Home, which on average is providing $5,000 grants to qualified seniors to make their homes safe for them. It could be grab bars, it could be ramps, a number of investments that will help them stay safe in their homes.
All right, and just quickly on the off-topic question, got two big events taking place in D.C. this weekend, a couple of big parades and everything. Your message to the people that are coming out, turning out for these events, and what sort of security can you address at this point?
Absolutely. So we expect to give some specific instructions tomorrow about what to expect on our roadways. But the big message is D.C. is open, have fun, enjoy your city, be smart, drink water, take transit, help out a neighbor. If you see something, say something. All of those things. Be respectful. Don't speed. Pay attention to the traffic signals. Listen to the police officers. Those are all the things that we're going to ask people to do to safely enjoy their city. Obviously, Chief Conti and his teams have a deployment strategy. If you're not willing to follow all of the rules, you don't want to see them. Okay, so let's just everybody have fun, enjoy our city. Happy Pride is the first, I think, the first full-on Pride parade in 2 years. And I'll just give you one hint today that the route is going to go in the reverse. So we don't want you showing up at where you used to show up thinking that's where it's going to kick off. So pay attention to our websites, sign up for text messaging from DC Homeland Security, and have a good time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, on the count of three, Black home ownership. 1, 2, 3.
Black